Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart Allen Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News podcast for the second week of June 2020. And it's a very serious podcast, at least from my point of view, because of what's happening in this United States, which I never thought in my whole life I'd ever see that happen.
No, we did talk about a civil war.
And I actually did mention a very long time ago, even years ago, I think it's in some of my books and videos and blogs, that I said that this time would happen. But when it does happen,
That's rough.
It's kind of like expecting to get a headache because you're stressed, and then you get the headache, you're like, oh my God, So that's what happens. So it's a very serious thing. And I'll tell you what, the evil ones are showing their true selves. Because you know that these so-called riots, they're not riots, it's an insurrection against the United States by communists, socialists, probably paid by George Soros and his company. And we now know who was part of all of that, because at least 13, there's that number 13 employees of Joe Biden's campaign have donated money to bail out the rioters in Minneapolis and other places in the country. And that leaves a very questionable issue around the Democratic campaign and their staffers who are siding with the riotous looters and protesters. Over this George Floyd protest, some of which explicitly advertised that they would spend the money on bail funding for those who were charged with crimes related to these riots. In a poll that was given, I'm never so sure about these polls, but this poll shows a strong plurality or an outright majority of Americans who support designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. So Biden supports Antifa, as do most Democrats, and they will stop at nothing to destroy the United States. It's not a question of an election. It's a question of controlling the United States or dismantling the United States and the rest of the civilized world to create a communist, socialist dictatorship.
Well, and there are a lot of celebrities that are also pledging money to help bail out
That's
these
right. Very disappointing when I read the
rioters.
list. I read the list to see who was posting, we matched this fund and that fund and so on. Very disheartening. The people that I had thought were great entertainers, or I used to like to years ago watch on television or in movies, and these are people supporting the dismantling of the United States. And so I say to these people, what do you think is going to happen to your careers if your people take over? Do you think you're going to keep your mansions and your millions of dollars? Because guess what? They will take it away from you. So you're very stupid. And as you know, when I worked in Hollywood and I met these people, they're pretty stupid. If they don't have a script, they can't put two words together. They're very, very stupid and narrow-minded. They're just little puppets. I thought you had been executed. I don't know. What's my name again?
He's floating in space.
Yeah, he's headless. And he should be headless. And more than a dozen U.S. cities have violent riots and have implemented nighttime curfews. And because of this George Floyd, black Minneapolis man who died in police custody after the officers kneeled on his neck for more than 8 minutes, which was caught on a cell phone video. And here's the thing. And I mentioned this to you earlier, because the person's knee was on his neck. It wasn't here. So if you put your knee here, can you suffocate like that?
Well, let's try.
Well, I know
Get on the table and we'll try.
I know you do try to do that to me daily, and I'm alive, so I don't understand. I think he's alive too. I think this George Floyd is alive. And I'll tell you something else. He's a fake. And I see these people putting, he was such a Christian man. He was so nice. No, he wasn't. He was a drug addict. He was operating in pornographic movies. He was supposedly trying to pass a bad check. That's not very Christian to me. So something going on over
Well,
there.
he served jail time, he's done a lot of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah. And then the little girl, I'm sorry, his little girl, oh, my daddy changed the world. Yeah, he changed it to a riotous, revolutionary, demonic world.
But
That's
we
what
don't
your father
even,
did.
you know what, we don't even know for sure if that is his family, and we
Yeah,
don't.
that's
and
true, that's
and
true.
They showed him with a white woman who was his girlfriend,
Mm.
so there are a lot of unanswered questions, let's
Yeah,
say.
I'll tell you, and I am not a racist because you're part black and you're part Indian. So if I was a racist, I wouldn't have you.
Well, you're part Asian,
Yes,
so if I was a racist,
I have Mongol genetics.
If I was a racist, I couldn't be married to you either.
That's right. So, if you have a problem with me, screw yourself, okay? Real seriously, because I am not a racist. And as you know, in my family, we have all different religions, all different races in my family, and
My family too.
so but right is right and wrong is wrong, and this is wrong. What's going on there in stupid soda? Anyway, Attorney General William Barr said in a statement that the rioting spreads in cities across the country. He said, quote, voices of peaceful and legitimate protests have been hijacked by violent, radical elements that pursue their own separate, violent, and extremist agenda. It's time to stop watching the violence and to confront and stop it, I agree. The continued violence and destruction of property endangers the lives and livelihoods of others and interferes with the rights of peaceful protesters as well as other citizens. And he said that the violence was instigated and carried out by Antifa and other similar groups in connection with the rioting and is domestic terrorism and will be treated accordingly. And hope immediately.
And they shouldn't be bailing these people out.
No, bail them out. Why did you bail them out? So that they continue murdering and killing people?
Apparently.
Because guess what? In California, Gavin Newsom, who's another brilliant idiot, declared a state of emergency for Los Angeles County, which is locked down till August, as hundreds of looters converged on downtown stores and clashed with the cops. In Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, and someone should, Lightfoot, imposed a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. After hundreds of protesters gathered at Federal Plaza to organize by Black Lives. Black Lives Matters is a George Soros created group which only intention is to destroy the United States. Black Lives Matter. Does your life matter?
Yes.
Do Chinese lives matter? Do Korean lives matter? So what's the block? It should be every life matters.
And not only that, did you see where people pulled up in Rolls Royces?
Yes, they're pulling up on Rolls Royces and robbing the looters.
Yes, and I saw people directing people into the store and telling them to come on out and pointing this way. I
If
saw
you
that
can't
stuff.
see that this is a staged terrorist event, then you don't have a brain cell in your head. In Philadelphia, 13 police officers were injured. There's that number again. And police cars were burned. Businesses vandalized. In Indianapolis, 2 people were shot and killed as the protests morphed into mob violence. So this is not about peaceful demonstration. This is not about the death of George Floyd. This is about an excuse to riot and murder and destroy.
And there are a lot of
Period.
people of all
Period.
different colors who are being killed, maimed, looted.
Yeah, I
It's
hope
not
that you
just-
all saw that video of that black woman in New York who in front of her store that was destroyed. She says, I'm black. And so black people, did my life matter? You destroyed my business. You destroyed my life. And she was selling, and that was a black woman.
Well, there are a lot of people with all different colors, all races, everything who are being hurt. It's not
No, this has nothing to do with black. This
No.
has to do with murder and destruction.
an
Only.
insurrection.
That's all it's about. Nothing to do with Black Lives Matter at all.
That's a front.
In Denver, a car rammed into the police vehicle and severely injured 3 officers. In Washington, your home, Washington State, Governor Inslee activated 200 National Guard members after rioting in Seattle intensified, and they shut down Interstate 5 in central Seattle. And there were damage to police vehicles and officers in San Francisco. Which is, guess who's in San Francisco? Nancy Pelosi, Nancy Pants. Why doesn't she do something over there? But she's walking through the ghetto with her matching mask, which is really a kerchief, and she says, "Oh, I'm here to help all the poor people." Blah blah blah. Yeah, That's why she was eating ice cream while people were starving outside her building. And she was laughing about it. So the majority of black people are against this. The protesters are bussed in and they're trained as rioters. And in fact, there were men from Washington State who were arrested in Delaware. What the hell were they doing there if they're protesting? Why don't they protest in their own place? So Soros pays for the violence, he pays for their transportation. The agitators usually will be wearing black and having a backpack. If you see them, you know that these are the trained adjutants by George Soros.
Just like all the people that came up through Central America down on our southern border.
Yeah,
How did they get there?
Who are wearing Santa. So I want to say, these people walk 45 miles a day in sandals and had fancy outfits on and holding babies for 45 miles? I don't think so.
Well, and even in these, they had that person holding a baby on their shoulders, and that reminded me of this because they use them as a cover, so then they show the police, pointing things at them, and they make the police look bad.
It's fake.
Yes.
And I'll tell you something about Minnesota, because the daughters of two Minnesota high-profile office holders were encouraging and supporting the forces that were rampaging. There was a person named Yaakov Appelbaum who did screen grabs or screenshots of tweets from Hope Waltz, the daughter of Democrat Governor Tim Waltz of Minnesota, who then helped the rioters to overcome law enforcement by calling up what appeared, because she said she protected her Twitter feed, so you cannot see it anymore. But the tweets showed that she told the rioters on May 28th not to worry about the National Guard showing up because it takes time for them to come from all over the state. So the National Guard will not be present tonight. She actually told them how and where to go so the Guard would be avoided. And our favorite person, Ilan Omar, whose daughter Isra Hirsi, tweeted that she, yes, I'm 17 and I hate capitalism. Then get the F out of this country and go back to Somalia. You and your mother first go to jail, be punished, and then be thrown out. You hate capitalism? Get the F out. You should have stayed in Somalia where they would have executed you. So these all should be sent to China or Cuba so they could see what socialism and communism is. And listen, my family from the Soviet Union, I know what communism is. It's not good. It's horrible. Now, Donald Trump called Russian President Vladimir Putin to tell him about his proposal to convene an international summit that would include Russia. The US president said he'll postpone the autumn meeting of the G7 nations that he had planned to hold next month, so he could invite Russia, Australia, South Korea, and India. And that's a very good idea. They should not be excluded. And he said, that Trump told reporters that the G7 group is very outdated. It absolutely is. And does not properly represent what's going on in the world, and I agree. But he should also include Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, Nigeria, China, Ethiopia, and Turkey, because these have huge populations and contribute to the world's economy, and they should be included as well. Now, right now, the G7 members are Canada. Canada? There's more people in Los Angeles than in Canada. Why is Canada in this? France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and UK, and US. Now, this is really bright. Canadian Prime Minister Justin I am not Trudeau said on Monday that Russia would not be included, disagreeing with Mr. Trump. And Mr. Not telling the Trudeau noted that Moscow's continued disrespect and flaunting of international rules and norms. Really, Trudeau? Because you in Canada used your own country, Canada, to transport uranium to Syria so the Iranians could make a nuclear weapon. Was that flaunting international law, Mr. Untrudeau? You should be executed. Canada should be absorbed into the United States, except for Quebec, which should be an independent country. I say, I am not politically correct. Do something. The Kremlin also said that Mr. Putin thanked Mr. Trump for a batch of U.S. ventilators sent to Russia, and the two leaders talked about their steps their country have taken to combat the fake coronavirus. Anyway, back to the United States, and there was a launch last week from Cape Canaveral that put U.S. astronauts for the first time in nearly a decade into orbit. The Kremlin said the two leaders spoke of the development of mutually beneficial cooperation in space and also talked about the need to intensify a U.S.-Russian dialogue on strategic stability and steps to enhance mutual trust in the military sphere. That is a good thing. And I agree, and Putin and Trump are working behind the scenes. And I posted recently a video on China with Steve Bannon, the former White House Trump advisor.
That was on your member blog?
Yes.
Okay.
So if they want to see it, they become a member. And so he was here with a Chinese representative, and they were talking about the Federal Republic of China, a free, independent China, with a free, independent Tibet, Macau, and Hong Kong, and to allow Taiwan to remain independent with mutually agreeable agreements between all parties involved. Now, this was on June 4th, 2020, the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. And so I agree with this. If it's the true thing, I hope it's the true thing. I'd like to know how it could possibly happen. I have been told that behind the scenes, the Chinese elite have said to the CCP, or the Chinese Communist Party, get the F out, you're done. And supposedly this will happen. And if you remember, there was a lady here from China in January who told me that this would happen. I didn't believe her, but here it is. And so let's see what happens. Now, there are Democrats and people in the media who are falsely blaming white nationalists for the violence. Really. Apart from that, and seeing on the videos that it's not true, the radical left organizations like Antifa and something called Proud Boys, which are white nationalists across the country, they say are accounting for this. There are strange items showing up at protests and riots across the country. People are reporting pallets of bricks and stones showing up on the street, and there is no construction nearby.
They say that those are owned by, it was either Soros or Gates or both, I can't remember, but
Well,
when
sure,
they trace
both.
but when they trace the companies back.
And there was no construction going on there. The police think there are some questions about worth asking here, because they don't think it's accidental. No, that these are easily available weapons to destroy things where the protesters are, and luckily they're removing them. What is left of them? They're removing them from the streets. Now, supposedly, as we are filming this, 1 million leftists are expected to attend the protests in Washington, D.C. this weekend, and the crackpot mayor of Washington, D.C. just evicted all the National Guard units because she wants trouble.
Well, did you see how that they put Black Lives Matter down the plaza?
And you know what? If I could, I would take a bunch of paint and just spill it all over the street and wipe it out. Because you know what? Washington, D.C. is not about Black Lives Matter. It's about the capital of the United States and should not be siding with one race or another. That's wrong.
A human
And
race.
so the mayors of Washington, D.C., Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, and Los Angeles should all be arrested for treason. And I'll tell you why else. Because several members of the Minneapolis City Council this week have expressed support for radical changes on how the city handles law enforcement, including a move to dismantle the police department. Dismantle the police department. That's what it says.
They're doing that all across the U.S.
Well, I'm going to tell you, and replace it with, quote, a transformative new model for public safety, unquote. Oh, that model sounds like anarchy to me. Is that what the model is? Anarchy?
Yeah.
That the hoodlums and the gangs will be in the charge of law enforcement, Minneapolis? Minnie is a good name for York City. Minnie, because it represents the mind patterns of you people. Jeremiah Ellison, the son of Minnesota attorney General Keith Ellison, and a representative of the city's Ward 5 explicitly led calls to dramatically rethink how the city keeps its people safe. Your city does not keep the people safe. He says, we're going to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department, and when we're done, we're not simply going to glue it back together, we're going to dramatically rethink how we approach public safety and emergency response. It's really past due. You know what? You know what you call that? Somalia. That's what you call that. No police department, no authority. It's called Somalia. Go there for a few days, walk in the street, and see what happens to you. Brilliant. And while you're there, take Ilhan Omar with you and the Attorney General, daughter, and your governor, and leave them before you come back. Now, this Lisa Bender, who's the president of the city council, said that yes, we're going to dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department and replace it with a transformative new model of public safety. Meanwhile, the president of the Minneapolis Police Union wrote a letter calling the riots in the city a terrorist movement. He should be mayor. And calling elected official efforts to find a police department despicable. And he's right. He should not only be mayor, he should be governor of the state. Minnesota used to be a quiet, nice place where all the Scandinavian people lived. What the heck happened? You know what happened? All the Somalians went there. For some reason, Obama and the administration, all the Somalian refugees, Minnesota. Why?
Sounds like a long
Why would you
time
put
plan.
someone from a hot desert climate into a cold Arctic climate? How does that make sense? Just like they took the Laotian refugees from Laos and they put them in Wisconsin. That was brilliant. So, and he said, our chief requested 400 more officers and was flatly denied. This is what led to the rioting, he said. And the Los Angeles Times reported that Mayor Eric Garcetti will also cut $100 million to $150 million from his police budget alone. You don't have enough as it is now, idiot, moron, jerk. That's what my mother used to call me. But I'm saying it to the mayor of Los Angeles, Mr. Eric Garcetti Confetti. You're a moron and you should be arrested. Anyway, you think I'm angry? This is all a setup by demon-controlled Democrats working for Soros, Gates, and the Clintons. Minnesota has long been a hotspot of stupidity, socialism, anarchy, and anti-US sentiments. Shame on you, Minnesota. Shame on any of you who voted for these people. Think twice before you do any more idiot things in November. Now, quite honestly, I support military law by proclamation by President Trump to get things back to order and end this hysteria and madness. White privilege? Do you have white privilege? Do I go outside and go, oh, you're white, let's give you everything you want?
should do that to me, except I'm not 100% white.
That's
So
why
how-
I won't.
So how do you make
I
that
won't bow down to you.
differentiation with people?
Listen to me. I have no white privilege. I don't know anyone that has white privilege. I don't care how much money they have or don't have. This is a stupidity George Soros mentality. Nobody has white privilege, okay? Nobody. And I don't have it. And so what we see now is actually racism against white people. That's racism. And you know what? I hate to use the word hate, but I hate when I hear people of color, neighborhoods of color. I have a color. You have a color?
have a color.
I don't think I'm transparent.
Yeah.
I'm not transparent, so I have a color. So I must be a person of color.
We are all persons.
I guess I'm a person of color too.
And you know what? If we ask black people to bow down to us,
Yeah, if I asked a black person to bow down to me and apologize, what would happen to me? This racism. And anyone who does that has not even a brain of a flea. In fact, that's an insult to a flea. Really.
say no to mind control.
Yeah, and I have a report from Beirut, if you think it's not. And it says, Dear Stuart, just want to share this small info. Last night, it was reported in the media that Israel violated airspace in South Lebanon. I thought of translating it to you exactly how it was reported on MTV website Anti-Hezbollah Media. On June 3rd, 2020, at 8:20 or 20:20 p.m. Isn't that funny? 20:20, 8:20. Israel violated the Lebanese airspace above Alma al-Sha'ab village in South Lebanon. It carried a circular flight and left the airspace on June 4th, 2020 at 1 a.m. from Nakura. Again, at 21:40, which would be 9:40 p.m., Israel violated the airspace from Yarun village and carried a circular flight above the southern villages and left the airspace on June 4th, 2020 at 25 minutes after midnight from the village of Armyesh. And again, at June 4th, 2020, at 10 minutes after midnight, Israel violated the airspace above Mais al-Jabal and carried a circular flight above the southern village and left the airspace at 2:15 in the morning from Aitarun village. How long for the real intervention to start, or has already started from behind the scenes? She says to me, you were right. It's only a matter of time that this government collapses in Lebanon and they flee. But the thing is, 99.99% of Lebanese politicians are like inherited dynasties. I hope we can get rid of all of the clans and sects and religion, and I favor separation just like Scotland, Catalan, etc. I believe everything you say. Thank you, Beirut, Lebanon. There will be a big demonstration tomorrow, meaning today, and the people have been very suppressed. Famine is already here. I went to the shops the other day to buy a few things and the prices are ridiculous. I'm not even going to start. And this week there have been violent clashes with the demonstrators, especially in Tripoli, which is a city in Lebanon also. And last Sunday it got violent in Beirut. Is the US turning into Lebanon and Syria? Is China going to have a revolution to be free republic? What about Cuba, North Korea, Iran, Venezuela? Much is going to happen before November.
Absolutely.
Now I got to calm down from my rant because I got all excited.
Well, I might have to tell you things that make you upset again.
Oh my gosh.
So the first thing that I want to discuss, which I have discussed before, but I'm bringing it up again, is about slavery. Because we talk about Black Lives Matter, and of course I believe all lives matter, but you know, slavery has existed as long as written history has existed, and before that.
It still exists now in Africa and Asia and South America.
Humans have always been a commodity to be bought and sold by the victors of war. That's the way it is. So this is nothing new, and those of you who think it's something new, or like what we talked about, you have to apologize for what your ancestors might have done. You know, perhaps you in your lineage have been a slave. So according to...
And I, like you said that, I just have to interject. Because you remember in St. Petersburg, in Russia, I had to apologize to the tomb of the Romanov family for what my family did before. And then even in Yekaterinburg, which is in the Oblast of Sverdlovsk, I apologized to my audience that I had there. And even the Russian people say, that was in the past, it wasn't you. And they wanted me to run for president, remember?
Yeah, but you shouldn't have apologized for what your family did.
I should not have, but
because you didn't do it.
The KGB brought me.
You did not do it. Wesleyan University notes the transatlantic slave trade from Africa to the Americas had been around for over a century already, originating around 1500. Slaves, listen to this one, usually were captured and sold by other African tribes.
Yes, absolutely.
Black people did this to black people.
And
So black people need to apologize to black people.
I have to interject there. Well, there was a video that I just saw. And there was a black woman confronting the white protesters who were protesting for black people, and she says, I'm a black woman and I'm free and I do whatever I want. Don't tell me what I gotta do and throw brick. And they said, oh, but black people are suppressed. She says, I live in a black neighborhood and every day black people attack black people and steal from black people, not white.
Right, so what you need to know, again, this isn't about racism. So black African tribes bought and sold approximately 11 million people between 1500 and 1850, and most of those people went to Brazil and the Caribbean islands. Some of them, if they wound up in the Americas, became indentured servants. And if they arrived in Virginia, Virginia made this a legal practice for everyone to own slaves. In 1661, it meant free white, free black, and free Indians could own slaves, okay?
And they did.
Another untold story, did you know that between the 17th and 18th centuries, more than 300,000 white people were shipped to America as slaves from Britain? from Britain.
Were they Irish people?
No, these are the British. The urchins were swept up from London Street to labor in tobacco fields where their life expectancy was no more than 2 years. Brothels were raided in London to provide breeders for Virginia. And migrants were duped into signing as indentured servants, unaware that once they arrived in Virginia, they became personal property that could be bought, sold, and even gambled away. These are white people who were slaves. Transported convicts were paraded for sale like livestock, and that happened all over the European continent. And brutalities usually associated with black slavery alone, or we should say the false history that was perpetuated on whites, that were also perpetuated on whites throughout British rule and only ended with American independence. And even then, Britain still tried to sell their convicts in their former colonies. And the slave trade of whites, hundreds of thousands were kidnapped, chained, whipped, and worked to death in the American colonies and during the Industrial Revolution. These are British people.
White people.
White people this happened to. So if they're going to do what do they call it?
Reparation.
Yeah, for black people, we need it for all colors because everybody, they have slaves here. That's how a lot of people got to the U.S. was because of these kind of situations. And yes, the Irish, which you mentioned, they came in overcrowded ships packed in among cargo and animals, sold to others, and worked hard under dismal conditions. And most of those were taken to the West Indies, to Barbados, and some to the American colonies. And it says that this all started, the Irish slavery started long before black slavery was common. And even among those not enslaved, many were treated nearly the same because they became contract labor on the railroads, mines, and other dangerous tasks, which meant a lot of them died. So slavery, I want you to know, it's not about black slavery.
No.
It's about human race.
Every
okay?
race has been enslaved in
That's
some way
right.
or
And
another.
this is just the recent one. If you go back and you look at the Romans and on and on and on, the Vikings, everybody took slaves.
Yeah.
So now this is the next ludicrous, disgusting thing going on in our country. Bald for BLM. White women pranked to shave their heads to express shame at white privilege while others kneel and beg for forgiveness from blacks.
Oh my God.
A hashtag on social media is attempting to prank white women to shave their heads bald, to apologize for and express their shame over their white
And tell me that there
privilege.
were morons doing this.
They have pictures of the women who did it.
They are brain dead.
They said that straight white hair is a luxury that many people of color
I wish I had some like that.
that they don't get to experience, so you show your support by shaving off your hair. Now, hair is a symbol of strength, so if you shave off your hair, you're shaving off your strength.
Well, I must be showing my support because I ain't got none.
Well, it's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now, also, there are all kinds of videos going around on social media of white people kneeling in front of blacks in the US and the UK to apologize for being white and for the historical oppression of black people.
How is that going to change anything?
Well, I'm telling you, it's not just black people who were oppressed, it was all races who were oppressed.
Listen to me very carefully, people. Do not apologize for your color. Do not apologize for your religion. Do not apologize for your nationality. Be proud of who and what you are. And be proud of who and what everybody else is, because that is the manifestation of the diversity of the God mind. Okay? You don't apologize for God. That's satanic.
And then there's in the UK, there was a woman who forced her young daughter, she was like 7 or 8 years old, to kneel, holding a sign with, it said white privilege with a sign to the girl, to the white girl, and then Black Lives Matter. And so this picture has gone viral over the internet, which again is horrible about indoctrinating our youth and putting these shameful thoughts and feelings. And I will tell you, you should not kneel before anybody.
No.
Okay, so
Although I saw a picture today of our Governor Gretchen kneeling in Detroit in
For
front of
what
black
reason?
people.
yeah, see, this it makes no sense because, as I said, everybody has a trauma in their lives.
She's going to be kneeling in
Everybody
front
here.
of God soon.
Now, I'll tell you, when we talk about white privilege, I'm going to tell you there's black privilege. Because here's a story
Yeah, I
about
think they have more privilege than white people.
Michael Jordan donated $100 million to organizations dedicated to race equality. I'm going to tell you, I wish I had enough money that I had $100 million extra to donate.
To
Okay? To anybody. I'm just telling you that there's black privilege that nobody's talking about. Think about all the entertainers and the sports people who are black and Latino and everything else under the sun, but not too many Native Americans, which I happen to be
You
proud
have a lot of
of.
stuff in you.
I do, or not too many Asians, but there's some, and they have a lot more money and a lot more privilege than we do. So it's not, this is just a stupid thing to divert your attention and to divide society. And then, now get this, NBA announcer Grant Napier apparently tweeted "All Lives Matter." So he was placed on administrative leave.
Why?
And
They
they,
told the truth?
because this was "All Lives Matter" is considered a controversial phrase associated with belittling Black Lives
How is
Matter.
that? They're part of all, aren't they?
And then he apologized.
Oh,
He
please.
says, "I'm not as educated on BLM as I thought I was." You know, I had
No, it's
spent.
BM is what it
Listen,
is.
I spent many years in the Columbia Basin, and we had the Bureau of Land Management. So I see BLM, I think that's Bureau of Land Management. So anyways, he issued a public apology. I had no idea that when I said "all lives matter," that was counter to what BLM is trying to get across. So they're not trying to get across that all lives matter. All lives matter,
yeah,
period. And this
seriously.
man should not have apologized.
He's an idiot for apologizing.
Laura Ingraham wrote a piece called "Violence is a Coordinated Effort to Eventually Overthrow the U.S.
That's
Government."
right. God bless that woman.
She said the aim of these criminal enterprises, including but not limited to Antifa, is to undermine confidence in our institution of governments on all levels. These wanton acts of violence are part of a coordinated effort to overthrow the United States government. It's well funded and well organized on social media. They do not care about George Floyd. They're using this to create more suffering and more chaos, like one giant video game to some folks. And their call to duty is one of annihilation of the country that we love. The American people and law enforcement officers are overwhelmingly good people.
Yes.
Now, get this. She wrote about this, and I read several articles about this, that there is a professor at the University of Alabama who provided a tutorial on Twitter about how to pull down national monuments. The tweet was by Professor Sarah Parcak, who is still up. And Jack Dorsey, who's the CEO of Twitter, claims that Trump's tweets are encouraging violence.
No, they're not.
This woman, this is my point, this woman, Sarah Parcak, her tweet of how to pull down national monuments is still
That they allow.
up. And
Destruction of property is allowed.
yes, she's a professor. She's getting paid with tax dollars of the University of Alabama. And there are other universities with America-hating indoctrinators like her. And this
They should all leave. Let them leave.
And then you want to remember this story, and again, Laura Ingraham is bringing this up again. Princeton and New York University Law School grad Collinford Mattis was allegedly behind the wheel of a tan minivan as his passenger, fellow attorney and Florida Law School graduate Uruj Rahman, threw a Molotov cocktail into a police cruiser. So hateful anti-American poison is also spewed in churches.
Listen to me. These people are murderers. They're not here for demonstration or for equality. They're here to murder and destroy. That's what they're doing. And they should be arrested and executed or deported to some horrible country where they could see what life could be like if they wanted to get their way here.
And remember Obama's pal, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, who talked about the U.S. of KKK. This is black people again talking against black
No,
people.
these are just stupid people.
In many riotous blue states, Democrat leaders are unwilling to stop the violence because they're trying to be politically correct and not ally themselves with Trump. Liberal media outlets are portraying the lawless rioters as freedom riders, even as they continue to smash, grab, push, beat, destroy, and kill the hope and the spirit of this country and other people. News anchors are taking side with the anarchists. They're willing to help the country burn out of their obsession with removing Trump from office, which tells me Trump must be doing something right.
He must be doing something good.
That's right. She says Americans are loving people, but they've had enough. They've had enough of lockdowns, they've had enough of lootings, and it's time to defend our founding principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We do this with respect for our fellow man, with our love of God, and our belief in the inherent goodness of mankind. So that means we don't go out and destroy.
Right.
Now back to indoctrinating youth. I mentioned the one woman, Teen Vogue, apparently wrote an article praising Antifa back in 2017, and with everything that's going on, they're bringing that out again. And the article says that Antifa grows out of a larger revolutionary politics that aspires toward creating a better world. The primary motivation is to stop racists from organizing. And guess what? Teen Vogue spoke with Dartmouth College historian, who's another professor, Mark Bray, who wrote a book called Antifa, the Anti-Fascist Handbook, and then he donated the profits to the group Antifa. He talks about, he claims Antifa is a pan-radical left political or activity of militant self-defense against the far right. They don't think we should turn to the police, so that's why they're disbanding now. They want to disband the police stations or the state to stop neo-Nazi or far-right organizing. Instead, they advocate popular opposition and, if necessary, militant response. And he also now lectures part-time at Rutgers University, and he described the recent chaos as social revolutionary self-defense against police. I don't think so. It's terrible.
These people should be deported.
He also suggests that the smashing, looting businesses, police precincts, and even nearby residences is the targeted destruction of police and capitalist property. No, it's the targeted destruction of your fellow citizens out there of all colors. Black, white, brown, red, whatever color you consider yourself, purple and pink, I don't care. Now, Trump, I saw this, which I thought just wanted to repeat to you, did not plunge the U.S. into chaos. He exposed decades of old corruption.
That's right.
Now, I also
And he still is.
I have a list of things for you to think about, which I think are extremely interesting because there's information all over the internet about what's really going on. And of course, personally, I do not believe that George Floyd was anything but a paid actor along with those people that they photographed him with and his family.
He was not a nice
and
person.
everything else. So, in Minneapolis, May 25, 2020, we saw for 8 minutes and 56 seconds a white police officer kneeling on a black man's neck
With his hand in his pocket.
while we had people in the background walking around, filming, everybody's looking
The
around.
police officer
right?
has his hand in his pocket and looking at the camera. If you have someone on the ground who's fighting you, why are you looking at the
Well,
camera?
and if he thinks they're being killed, and they said if they was really being killed, he should have died within 2 to 3 minutes, not 8 minutes, 56 seconds.
Yeah.
In Paris, May 28th, there's also a picture of a white officer kneeling on a black man's neck. And in Madrid, May 30th, there's also a picture of a white police officer kneeling on a black man's neck. Now, remember what I just said. I said that it was for 8 minutes and 56 seconds. Did you know that on September 11th, 2001, that the Twin Towers in New York City were hit at exactly 8:56, same numbers. Did you know Twin Towers, New York City, Minneapolis is a twin city of St. Paul? And they are saying that George Floyd had a twin. So we have September 11th, we have Minneapolis, and we say George Floyd is a twin.
The deep state loves symbolism.
They do. Now, do you also know that all around the country they are holding moments of silence or minutes of silence for George Floyd for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? And did you know that 9/11 made a movie that was called 846? That there was a movie about it, and did you also know that Viacom CBS has now unveiled a blackout video tribute to George Floyd, and guess what they're calling it? 8-minute, 46-second blackout video. So 846, that's in your head, right? Now, can you please explain to the people what Gematria is?
Hebrew letters are also numbers. And when you write a sentence in Hebrew, it is actually a formula. And so the Gematria is analyze the numerical value and frequency of that letter, word, or sentence to find out what the meaning really is.
We have some of that in our books, which you can read, and I'll show you when we're done. But in English Gematria, remember,
Which isn't, to me, very valid English.
well, this is English Gematria. 846, which I just told you about. These all have the same equivalencies, and these are just a partial list of phrases. A deadly virus, police officers, absolute chaos, satanic energy, eye of the devil, death to America, vote Democrat, Microsoft
Means all those things.
846, Microsoft CEO, stage events, Adam Weishaupt, number of the
It's
beast,
Illuminati.
coronavirus, World War III, shape-shifting, June 11th. We'll see what happens there. Behold a black horse, Barack Hussein Obama. And
insane Obama.
guess what else? Black Lives Matter. They all have that numerical value of 846, which is the exact amount of time that supposedly they kneeled on George Floyd. 8 twins.
You
Now.
can't make that up.
Now, 846 is an anagram for 864. And guess what? The diameter of the sun is 864,000 miles. And there's 86,400 seconds in one day. And I'm just going to throw this one in here. The Lord Jesus Christ in the Greek cipher is 864. And so there is talk that this is a sun ritual.
Mm-hmm.
So very interesting when you start looking into what is actually happening. So I'm going to tell you, do not participate. Correct and heal your own mind pattern. Correct your own inner conflicts. Speak up for what you know is correct. Do not be silenced. Do not wear a mask of submission. You're not a slave. If you are on lockdown, then what internal issues are locked down within you that you need to unlock and say no to mind control? And I want to remind you of our last set of
We
books,
do all those books.
which obviously came at the perfect time. 13 Cubes Squared, and of course, Heights of Deprogramming, backed up by 2 of our older books, 13 Cubed and True Reality of Sexuality. So you need to get these. Say no to mind control. And these also came out in January. This helps you with health and healing of your mind. How does this one go? Like this? No, like this. Yeah, you gotta hold that one. So health and healing, remember these came out in January. Build your body and your mind and your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And then I told you we also in our books have Hebrew Gematria in some of these. This is also an excellent set. This is a new set. We have King Bee. That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
So hold that one, please. And then the second one is the Template of God Mind, which you just gave a beautiful webinar on. We had 100 people participate. We met the limits from around the world.
Keto.
And this will soon be for sale, that webinar, on the website, I think around the middle of June.
Right,
So
right.
watch for that one to come up if you were not able to participate. Those of you who did, you should have a link by now. Revelations of Time and Space. And of course, Heights of Spirituality. Nobody can heal you but you, and we teach you how to be your own best teacher, how not to be oppressed, how to say no to mind control, how to take care of yourself. We also have, of course, our Methylene Blue Plus, which has proven quite popular, and our Blue Block and our regular Methylene Blue. And let me remind you, on the website, all the information that you need, all the research, you can make up your own mind. So when people are saying, well, if there's no coronavirus, why are you talking about this? Because build your immune system, period. It doesn't matter. Flu season is out there, colds are out there, blah, blah. Build your immune system.
I told you the virus is a simulation that uses your exosomes.
Yeah.
So it does form in your body, but you cannot catch it.
So lots of weirdness going on out there.
And then, you mentioned about the books, and
Sure.
there are new books coming out as well.
There will be.
As far as the Turkish webinar is concerned, it was very popular, and they asked me to do another webinar for Turkey that we'll be doing every month. And the next one will be June 28th. However, just so that you know, it will be based on the one I just did for Ecuador and the Latin American community, which was this past June 4th. So that will be, so if you're going to sign up for the Turkish webinar on June 28th, it will be the same information that I did on June 4th for Ecuador and the Latin American.
A lot of times
Community.
people like to see things more than once because it gets it in their head. And sometimes, especially when you're presenting live, you might say things in one that you don't say in another.
And so, when the advertisement comes out, please, people, read it. Don't bombard expansions, customer support with questions like, what day is it? What time is it? How much is it? Blah, blah. It's on the advertisement. Read it. And don't email 5 days before and say, I don't have my link. I wanted to see it today. That's because it's not to the 28th, okay? We had people writing in the last week of May, early June, where's my link for this? It's not till June 4th. Read the freaking advertisement.
The description. Everything is in the description that you need to know.
So please, people, before you start bombarding,
Yes.
read the information
Yes.
first.
And then when it's time to get your link, check your spam
And when you get the
your
link,
junk mail.
understand we are not giving the link. This is coming from the sponsors and the host country. So I don't know when they're going to give you the link, but you will get the link before it begins.
Yeah, and check.
Sometimes I don't get the link until 15 minutes before it begins, okay? So please stop asking the same questions over and over. You'll get the link read the date, read the time, it's all there.
And remember our health and healing books, Hyperspace Helper, Healing Archetypes and Symbols, and of course our affirmations for self-change. This is a great group if you don't have this, and our basics. If you're not familiar with our information, Hyperspace Helper, Decoding Your Life, these are great. So we're putting together some new bundles for people so it will help guide you because we have so much information. Get a membership. That's the easiest place to start. Expansions.com, less than $1 a day, where we are on there every single day interacting with
Yes.
our clients from around the world. We have a global community that is very adhesive and very dedicated to self-healing, teaching yourself, connecting with your own source, saying no to mind control, learning the true history. All those things are on our website. People get on our site and they say they cannot believe how much content we have available waiting for you. But we can't force it on you. You've got to come and get it yourself.
And then they will go to Q&A and ask me about, can you rewrite the chapter on blah, 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 because I don't want to read it. Please. That's why I say read the book. They get mad at me because they read the book. That's why I wrote the book. So you read it and have the information. That's so you can ask me to rewrite it for you over and over again on Q&A. Try to be patient, but it's a very stressful time right now. And so we need to be, proactive and do our work before we ask the questions.
And most of the books are available on Kindle. I think like 95%
Most,
of
not
them.
all, not all.
We have a couple that we're waiting for, but most of theirs. So I'm sorry about the cost of postage, like I've told you
We
before.
can't control that.
If you wanted to get it a little bit more down to the penny, you can call for that. You can contact customer support at expansions.com and place your order manually. If we notice the postage is like extravagant, which sometimes it just pops up because of the configuration of the website, we do our best to watch and give you a little bit back. But if we can't, we can't. So, like I said, I'm sorry about that. And the other thing is a lot of people with international orders are writing us to say, where's my order? Even here in the US, there are a couple things that I paid for, like overnight mail or 2-day mail. I can't get them. Sometimes then they show up like a week or 10 days later because of everything that's going on in the entire world.
I placed an order in the middle, May 18th for something in San Diego. I'm still waiting for it. So
it's going to
that's the
take
way it
time.
is.
And we told you this right in the beginning of all this. If you need stuff, you need to place your orders now because we don't know how long it might take to get to you. So don't think, I'm going to place my order today and get it tomorrow. Especially, like I said, if you're overseas. The customs we've been told in overseas is backed up.
How long did it take for Germany to receive our shipment?
I don't remember.
Maybe almost a month.
At least. But that's not even unusual under normal times. So if she got it in a month, that's really not that bad. We have some people who are waiting even 2 months right now for things. So, get what you need and know that you have it. Now, as I said, Kindle is great because it's a way you can get the information. But if it's something you want to keep, get a book because all you have to do is flip a switch and your Kindle is dead. So get a book and then you have what you need. So
And we have had internet issues recently. Last week it went out for absolutely no reason given. And apparently there have been outages all over the United States. So I suspect that they're putting something into the system and then turning it back
Well,
on.
part of the insurrection can be just to disrupt.
Or it could
all
be
our
something, it
communication.
could be the other side.
So we don't know, but we're doing our best to keep you informed. As I said, what you get on the podcast is a very tip of the iceberg. If you really are interested in our work and what we know, then get a membership, expansions.com. Less than $1 a day. As I said, it's a phenomenal investment in yourself.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Because I want to tell you something that in July 2018, I believe it was, Q posted that there was going to be rioting and an insurrection. They knew 2 years ago. They have a technology called Looking Glass, and they know what's going to happen and when. And they tell you about it exactly a year or two beforehand. So don't be afraid, even though things may look scary and overwhelming, they will be overcome. And we will win. God always wins. You never can remember a time when Satan won. Satan has always lost, and it will lose again. And all these people who created the coronavirus, who created the insurrections, who create all these horrible things going on, they will pay. Trust God on that one. Have no fear. The best is yet to come. Where we go one, we go all. Bye for now.
Bye.